All right, so hi there. Good evening, Michaela. How are you? How do you feel today? Is everything all right?
Good evening, teacher. Yes, thank you so much.
Great, that's good to know, Michaela. So, we have to start today with the last unit that is going to be today. And practically today, I have to tell you everything so that you have the time to work on the essay. But remember that you have until Monday, 11:59 p.m. Okay, so everything else that I'm going to tell you on Monday, that is going to be mainly extra, is something that you can take into account to work on the last modifications for your essay. You work on that, and you can upload it until 11:59 p.m. Right? So first, then I want to know if you were able already to watch the class. I think you work on the examples, right? But I want to know if you have any questions about the lesson, because that was a very important lesson for the structure. Let me know, please, if you have any doubts about it, or if you get to watch the entire class, or if you missed one part. Let me know, please.
I was checking the video, but I didn't have the time to watch until the final. I am taking notes to my essay, but I need to to give a structure yet.
Okay, good. That's good. I mean, you're working on that, and that's great. When you can, please finish watching the entire class, because at the end, I'm saying some things that can be, and I know that sometimes I go around the same thing, but there are details that are going to be important. But one more time, I showed this at the end of the class. When you watch it completely, you're going to see this one. This is what your essay should look like, okay, more or less. This is like the template, right? And if you analyze here what it's written, is everything that you need to have, sorry, in every step of your essay. Your essay has to be like this: one introduction, one conclusion, plus two body paragraphs. All of them, okay, all of your essay has to be like this. You have to use colors, all right? It has to be with colors. If it's not with colors, it's going to be, again, just, I think, for 20 or 25% of the 100%, okay? And again, the usage of colors is great for you so that you know what step you're working on. And it's good for me because I'm going to see that you really follow the steps. Because even though, again, I can check if you write an essay that didn't follow the steps, is going to have a score, is not going to have the best score, and I'm going to give you corrections. But the idea here is to try to follow these steps so that in the future, if you have to write an argumentative or persuasive essay, you can follow these ideas. Okay, so this is more or less, again, what I'm going to be expecting on Monday. It has to be like this with colors, three steps, three different colors in the introduction. This is short, it can be longer, right? It can be, this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say five, less than five. It can be 5, 6 lines, more or less. This here is a good length, but it can be more. So again, it's going to depend on how you're going to organize your ideas. Remember that you have a limit, 420 words, if I'm not wrong. So try to work on the entire essay first, and then you can be eliminating or adding some things afterwards, right? And one recommendation, please, try to make the essay like even, and try to make it in terms of appearance, but also it works in content, right? Try to make it be balanced. If the first body paragraph is like 6, 7 lines, 8 lines, and the second body paragraph is only 5 or 4 lines, the difference is too big, right? And perhaps you need to try to balance that so that you have the same amount of information. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's just 1 or 2 lines of difference, that's good. But if it's more than 3 or 4, actually, I would say more than 4 lines, it looks, again, that you paid more attention to the first paragraph. It usually happens like that. The second paragraph is very short, and the conclusion is very short, right? So be careful with that one. Try to look for balance in your paragraphs, just that one, all right? So I think that's it on my side. Again, this is what it should look like. Here, the only thing you have is are all the steps that you need to follow. And again, in the document, right, that I was using to give you the examples as well, this is something also useful. If you want to do it, you can do it in this way. This chart, right? You can use first a chart to first write your ideas, right? Here you have the 3 steps in the chart for the introduction. Here you have 6 steps, but remember, only 5 are obligatory, 1 is optional. So First, my recommendation is try to work like this, step by step, and then at the end you can mix everything. And when you mix everything, you can make some corrections, and also you can try to connect the words in a better way. Okay, also, if you got to a part, in a part I commented, right? I said I would make many changes here because I don't feel comfortable with what I did, because it was just a set of examples for you. But I would change some words, I would change some connectors, I would try to make it more fluid, because I feel that in a certain way it's kind of mechanic. So that's what you need to try to avoid. Okay, if you feel that it's like that, like one sentence, another sentence, you can try to avoid that by, again, using good connectors, by flowing in a better way as you are writing your essay. Okay, that's my last recommendation. And again, this is what it's going to look like. Sorry, the same, but you're going to have one extra paragraph, right? That is the second body paragraph. And the only thing that changes here can be the transitional words to go to the second. But one more time, that's it. If you have any questions about this part before we go to the last unit, Michaela, let me know. Once again, it's very important that you have these three parts and with all these steps. Okay, 3 steps for the introduction, 5 steps minimum for the body paragraphs. It means 10 steps, 5 for the first body paragraph, 5 for the second body paragraph, and 3 steps for the conclusion. All right, so what do you say? Any questions or comments before going to the last unit?
No, teacher. I think no.
Okay, good. Perhaps again, if you get to have any questions, remember please that we still have Monday. So remember also that you have the time, right? You're going to have some hours to make corrections. So if during this weekend, as you work on your essay, you have specific questions, you can let me know on Monday. Okay, I'm not going to give you corrections because I know it's your essay. I have to give you that responsibility. But if you have specific questions, as if you're using the correct word, or again, if you are not sure what you have to write in that step, I mean, those general questions, you can let me know on Monday. All right?
Okay.
Good. So with that said, we are ready to go then to the last part. And the last part is very simple. It's like just, again, as I was explaining, you first write your essay. With this last unit, you should have everything done. But this is just to make it more academic and make it better. Okay, so these are just tips to improve your writing skills and to make your essay more academic. Very simple thing. So let's start by reading, please, in number 1, Michaela, step number 1.
Okay. Use the active voice. The active voice is used when the subject of your sentence performs an action to a direct object. In other words, noun performing an action plus action verb plus object receiving the action. The passive voice is used when the subject is the thing receiving the action and the thing doing the action appears as an indirect object near the end of the sentence. The formula for passive voice is noun receiving action plus action verb plus optional indirect object.
Great. Thank you very much, Michaela. And now, this is interesting, okay? Passive voice is formal. It's very formal. But in this case, you are not going to use passive voice. Okay, why? Because in this type of essay, at least in English, the argumentative or persuasive essay, you have to be direct. And it's very important to mention who says something. Okay, because remember that in the passive voice, you don't usually mention the agent, right? Because it's not always important, right? But if you analyze the persuasive essay, you show some citations, right? And it's very important that you put emphasis on the author that is saying that action. All right, so you need to say, this person said this, and you show me the citation, for example. All right, so one more time, we need to use active voice and not passive voice. Even though passive voice can be more formal than active voice, in the case of persuasive essay, we need to use active voice, okay? At least for this type of structure. That's one. But let's see if we remember, because we're going to work with some examples. Michaela, try to give me, please, one example in passive voice. What comes to your mind if I ask you to give me an example in passive voice?
Okay, maybe Um, the sales of products was analyzed by the manager.
Good, good. I just want to be sure one thing. Tell me one more time, please. What is the thing that you're mentioning at the beginning?
The sales product.
Okay, but you said products, right? So is it something in singular or in plural that you're saying there?
In plural.
If it's in plural, then because you said S, right? But then you said was.
Where the sales products were analyzed by the manager.
Correct, exactly. Good, that's great. Okay, so you know passive voice. So let's do the following to practice, just to practice in Michaela. We're going to write some things, but not here. Remember, this is one new unit. This is unit 4. So over here, please, I'm going to send you the link. And you're going to give me first passive voice ideas. Okay, you're going to give me just 2 passive voice ideas in 2 different tenses. And you're going to change from passive voice to active voice. That is what we need to use in this case. All right. So again, it's very simple, but it's just to be sure that passive voice is clear for you so that we can work on the other elements that we got. Okay, so there you go. The link is in the chat. Ella, go over there, please. And one more time, you have to write 2 passive voice sentences plus the active voice version of those 2 sentences. Okay, we need a total then of 4 sentences. Let's have, again, 3 to 4 minutes. If you finish before, please let me know. We'll check in that time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to take a look at some of your ideas so that we can see how it is going. If we need more time, we're going to use that extra time. But let's see how you're doing, Michaela. Let's read what you got, please.
Okay, the inventory was made by the warehouse staff. The staff made the warehouse staff made the inventory. The event was prepared months ago by Carol. Carol prepared the event in December.
Good, thank you very much, right? To keep the exact same idea, right, you can keep the exact words, right? But again, the change was correct. So in the first one, right, you can keep the warehouse staff, right? So you can say the warehouse staff made the inventory, so it's good. So, but it's correct, right? You state the same idea, but you want to use always the same words, right? And also in the second one, you say the event was prepared months ago by Carol, and Carol prepared, right, the event months ago. All right, you can keep the same words and it's always going to be the best option. But here the main idea was changing from passive to active, and you can do it and it's great, right? So there you go. So it means we have to use active voice. Why? Because it's important who says that. Here, as we are talking about persuasive and argumentative essay, we need to show evidence. And it's very important to pay attention to who is saying that, because according to that, your evidence is or is not going to be valid. Okay, just because of that purpose, we're using active voice. So that's one. That's very simple, right? Step one is very simple. And it means also you need to be careful, Michaela, when you're writing your essay, be careful in not using passive voice. Because again, it's not going to be incorrect, but this is just for this final essay, okay, for the essay that the program is preparing. If you have a passive voice sentence, it is going to be like minus one step followed over there. Okay, so it doesn't have to be with passive voice, and all these steps that we're going to be reading together, they have to be followed because they have a specific criterion that is 20 points if I'm not wrong. Okay, every step that is not followed, let's say you have one passive voice, is going to reduce from those 20 points. All right, but once again, it's not that it's incorrect, it's just to follow these specific steps in this case. So let's read number 2 now, please, over here.
Okay, use literal and concrete language, set flowery and abstract language for works of fiction. When writing a persuasive essay, you want to make sure you use very clear and direct language. You want your writing to be easily understood in a quick read. So abstract language slows down the reader and makes your writing less succinct. Instead of trying to create a literary masterpiece, concentrate your attention on concrete examples that support your argument. Also avoid using vague language. You do not want to say something like, I am great at a variety of things. Broad statements like this will leave the reader wondering what qualifies you as a great. Rather, you should use concrete and specific language. Write something close to, I received the MVP award from my basketball team 3 years in a row, which unquestionably demonstrates your achievement.
There you go. Thank you very much, Michaela. Good. So before I give you some ideas with this, let's only repeat 2 words, please. First, it's going to be this one over here, that is going to be vague.
Vague?
Vague. Vague language, right? Like in Spanish. The Spanish word is very simple, right? And here, variety.
Variety.
Variety. Good. So this is what I told you, remember? We didn't cover this before, but I told you that we were going to have this. And remember, if you say this or we should implement online classes because of many reasons, that is incorrect, right? In this purpose. Why? Because what are those reasons? If you're not going to explain those reasons in your essay, then it is going to be incorrect, okay? Always try to mention what you are going to say. It means that, again, as you're writing your essay, be careful in not saying things like that. In many things, a few things, or details that are not concrete. As it says here, right? It's not going to be a literary piece, a masterpiece, right? Using your best words with abstract language. No, here it has to be concrete. It has to be direct. It has to go straight to the point. You need to show something that you believe, and you need to convince the reader that you are correct, right? That's the only purpose. So As in the example here, please, we're also going to practice writing something. Okay, look at the example. The one that is incorrect says, I am great at a variety of things. It is incorrect. Why? Because what is a variety of things? What do you mean by that? We need to know. So instead of that, you can say, I received the MVP, right? The most valuable player, it means the best player, award from my basketball team 3 years in a row. So here we know that you are great at what? At playing basketball, right? But you can say I'm great at playing basketball, football, and many other things. Or you can say these type of classes are better because of this and that. And you don't simply say because of many reasons, right? So let's work only with two examples like that, please, Michaela. Give me two very vague examples, okay? Two abstract or vague examples that are not clear, because if I read that, I understand, but I don't know what you mean by those abstract words or by that vague language. Okay, so two examples like that, please, plus the correction. It means instead of saying that like variety of things, many reasons, a few reasons, instead of saying those words, you have to mention what you're talking about. Okay, and you can make a list of 2 or 3 important elements that are more than enough in an essay, and that's something you can develop. Okay, so I don't know if you have any questions before working on that example or on those examples, Mikael.
No, teacher.
Good. Let's do it then, please. One more time. It will be a total of 4 sentences, but it means 2 vague sentences that are not clear, and they are corrections mentioning everything you have to mention. The same, please. Let's have let's have 3 to 4 minutes, and we take a look at that. All right, so we have 3 minutes so far. Let's see if we need 1 more minute. Let me see how you're doing. And again, if you have questions, you can let me know. All right, good. I think you're working great. Finish that one, please. You finish and you read it. Okay.
Okay. I think it.
Good. Let's read what you got, please. We're going to see how it works.
Okay. Okay. The Hamilton musical has won many awards. The Hamilton musical has won the Best Musical Tony, Best Musical Pulitzer, and the Best Concept Album Grammy. Joanna has good qualities for the job. Joanna is smart, fast, and very intuitive for the job.
Okay, great, great. I think it's working very well. You got that idea, right? Vague language for specific examples, right? So that's again what we're going to be expecting in the essay, Michaela. Instead of saying broad things, try to say the things you want to say. And again, perhaps you're not going to be able to develop all those characteristics, all those, for example, if you're talking about these characteristics being smart, fast, and intuitive, and your essay is going to be about that. Remember that you only have 2 body paragraphs to defend your position, so you always need to decide to mention only the things that you're going to be able to explain in a better way later on. Okay, but again, the idea is that you mention those things and not only say that in that way. Okay, so here, and best concept, yes, it depends on the name that it has. If the name here, for example, the correction wants to be only an Best Concept Album Grammy, that is correct. If the name doesn't include the article the, you can only say Best Concept Album Grammy without the article the.
Okay.
Like this one, right? Best Musical Pulitzer without the article the. Okay, so it depends if it has that in the name. If not, as it's as something proper, you don't need to use that article. All right, so it's going to be optional. It depends on that specific name, and I'm going to use the parentheses over there. That's it. Let's go to the next part then. Okay, that was step number 2. Step number 3, look, it's not something we are going to correct in a certain way. It's part of something that we see, but it's not easy to analyze. In other words, this is going to be analyzed just in this case, Michaela. If your sentence is too long, okay, too long, like here they say, right? You can say something in 5 words, do it instead of saying that in 10 words, okay? It can look to be the opposite as the previous one, but what they are saying here is that you have to say the things you want to say, but if you can do that in less words, do it, okay? But again, you can do that without being abstract, like in the previous example, okay? Or without being vague. You can be concrete, you can be concise, using the words that you have to use, but also being concrete, showing your examples, okay? But just in case, let's read this one, please. Kyla, let me put that over there. And there you go. Let's read it, please.
Okay, be concise. 40 sentences are hard to follow. We recommend to including any sentences that are longer than 2 lines in your essay. As a rule of thumb, never say in 10 words what you can say in 5. This rule is applicable to paragraph length as well. Of course, 1 sentence is not necessarily better than 4, but make sure that every sentence says something significant. Do not use any filler sentences. College admissions officer can detect BS instantly. They see it all the time.
Thank you very much. So these are recommendations, okay, these are steps for application essays and for academic essays. That is what we want to learn here, all right? And when you write a good essay that is for universities, for colleges, this is what they ask for, okay? Filler, what is a filler sentence? Something that you say just because you want to add extra words, right? But it doesn't have any special meaning, or it's not adding anything important to your essay. Okay, so we have to avoid that. So if you want to follow the step number 3, we're not going to practice this because, again, it's going to be something special. We're going to practice this in a different way by reading an essay. But here again, don't write very long sentences that can create confusion in in the reader. You can do it if you use the correct punctuation mark, but if you can reduce that to a shorter sentence that says the same, it's better to do. Okay, so this is again only going to affect if you use fillers, okay, so filler sentences, or if you use very, very long sentences that can create confusion. That's it. Okay, that's it with number 3. Now, number 4, this is something interesting. It's also evaluated. Let's read this one, please. Okay.
Okay, be careful with placement of descriptive words and phrases. Make sure that you place adjectives and descriptive phrases as close to the noun that they modify as possible. Otherwise, your reading can become difficult to read, or the meaning of the text can be misconstrued. Take a look at these examples. I will be applying to the University of Pennsylvania in the fall. In the fall, I will be applying to the University of Pennsylvania. As you can see in the first example, the descriptive phrase in the fall seems like it belongs to the University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania is not a seasonal school. In the fall, describes when the action will be performed, not when the school is in session. It is much better to place in the fall closer to the verb that it modifies, applying as shown in the second example rather than after the prepositional phrase.
Good. Thank you very much, Michaela. Now, this is interesting, okay? You know, there is a correct way, a correct order for the words, right? As I told you, it's the subject, the verb, the objects, then you have the place and the time, right? That's the correct order. And it always goes from general to specific, right? From general to specific. So if you have that, you don't need any commas. But here they are telling you something interesting that you have to take into account. If you have a long sentence that you know you have to avoid, but sometimes it's unavoidable because there are ideas that have to be stated in one sentence. So if you have a long sentence that is not confusing, but is long, and you follow all the rules and you don't need any commas, but the adverbs are too far away from the subject, it can create a different type of confusion, right? In what sense? That you don't know what that adjective or that adverb is describing. If it's describing the subject, it's better if you place that at the beginning, close to your subject or subjects, that they are doing here, right? So from these two sentences, the best order grammatically speaking is number 1. I will be applying to the University of Pennsylvania in the fall. But because in the fall, it's putting emphasis on when I will do something, they think that it's better to place in the fall at the beginning because it's close to the action that you're describing. I will be applying. Okay, so that's what you need to think. In your essay, also, that's something you have to do. If you're going to use an adverb of time, like in the fall, or anything that describes what you do or what you will do, it has to be close to the subject or to the action, okay, so that it's not confusing. That's the only purpose, right? So let's try to apply this one actually in Michaela. You know that sometimes adverbs or anything can be located at the end. We are talking about place and time mainly, okay? Place and time. Let's try to think of those two options. So let's try to write one more time 2 examples, please, Michaela. One in which you follow the correct order and you don't use any commas, okay? And you place time and, or sorry, place, yes, place and time at the end, and the correction in which you place one of the adverbs at the beginning because you believe it's important to mention that at the beginning. All right, let's do it, please. One more time. It's going to be 3 minutes and we check that.
Teacher, sorry. Just two sentences, right?
Yes, two sentences that are with the correct order plus the correction, right? In the correction, you need to place one of those adverbs of time or place at the beginning with a comma, right? So like in the example that you have here in the presentation, right? First something without commas, without anything in the correct order, and then placing something at the beginning because you believe it's important to mention that close to your subject or your verb.
Okay.
Okay, so you have it ready. Can we check?
Oh, I just have two sentences, but it's the same.
Okay, let me see, please. Let me see. I'm just in the presentation. Okay. All right. Yes, it's that one, right? It's two sentences, but you have the sentence in a different way, right? So here, actually, what we need in the essay is the first sentence, right? It's kind of interesting because it's going to give the reader the possibility of understanding that without getting lost in all the other words that you're saying, right? So the first one is going to be the thing that we need in the essay. The second one is the one that is even more correct, right, in the sense of grammar. But the first one gives more clarity to the reader, okay, because he's going to understand things in a better way, just that one. But let's read this, what you got, please, Michaela.
Okay, before midnight, we need to submit the documents to the lawyers to get the review. And we need to submit the documents to the lawyers to get the review before midnight.
Very well, good. So this is interesting, right? What happens, and this is something, and in this case, I believe it's going to be very clear. What happens if you say number two? We need to submit the documents to the lawyers to get the review before midnight. What are possible confusions over there, Michaela, different to what you have in the first example?
The review, well, they are going to send the review before midnight, but in the first sentence, I am sending the documents before midnight, and they are going to reply maybe tomorrow or in another day.
Exactly. And in number two, if you want, actually, it's correct. And before midnight also applies to submit the documents. But it can create the confusion that you said, right? Many people that read, they can believe that before midnight refers to the lawyer's actions, right? Not to your actions. So again, to avoid that confusion, that's what we want to avoid here. In essays, it's better to have all the main ideas next to the main subject plus the main verb, because if they are at the end, they can be confused by other things that are in your complement, right? So that's the main thing. I think with this, we are more than clear. I don't know if you have any questions about this step before going to the next one, Michaela.
No, teacher, thank you so much.
Good. Let's continue then. All right. So far as you can see, it's not hard. This mainly, again, is not going to be something new that you're going to do on your essay. This is something that you're going to do to revise the last details of your essay so that you are sure that it is readable, right? It means that it's easy to read, that there is not going to create confusion, that it's not going to be abstract. One more time, it has to be concise, concrete, direct, right? And if it's like that, it's going to be correct. And it has to be well organized and well connected, right? If you have all those characteristics, it is going to be good. And once again, this is just like the last check of something that you were supposed to do at the beginning so that you can improve and, yes, enhance your essay. So let's read the step number 5, please.
Do not use abbreviation or contractions. This rule is important in any piece of professional writing. Contractions are only appropriate for conversational language and come off as lazy informal writing. Similarly, abbreviations are often unclear. Not everyone knows what CCC stands for.
Thank you very much. So this is easy, right? We don't usually use abbreviations, but what is an abbreviation? USA, right? So instead of you saying USA in an essay, you have to say the United States of America, right? So that's the first thing. And also contractions. You are not going to use contractions. You're not going to say I'm, his, or they are, right? You have to say they are, I am, etc. Okay, and once again, this is applied to any writing that is formal. As it says something interesting, right? It comes off as something lazy in formal writing. So to show that you have the time to write it, to show that you are doing it with the time to revise it, the time to make it a good writing, you need to avoid abbreviations, that is don't, his, and so on, and contractions, that is his, am, and so on, and abbreviations that are the US, TV, all right? Those little details that have to be avoided in this case. All right, one more time. This is easy. We're not going to practice. This is something that we're going to check. Okay, if you have abbreviations or contractions, you are going to lose some points in that section. Okay, and that's the section for improving your writing. That's number 5. Now, number 6, perhaps this is one of the most important ones because this is applied to almost any essay that you write. It's taken into account in the TOEFL, it's taken into account in any international test, plus is always something revised if you work in colleges, universities, or even at work, right? When you have a very hard and strict personnel, they check this when you are redacting something. But let's read please this one, Mikael. Avoid repetition.
Okay, avoid repetition. You do want to rehash your points and support them in different ways. However, you do not want to repeat the same point over and over again using different language. If several of your sentences are saying the same thing, it will seem as though you were not capable of coming up with more material to write about. You should also avoid repeating the same words in your writing. Take care not to use the same adjective in every paragraph to describe yourself or your situation. If necessary, feel free to use thesaurus. The English language has more words than any other living language. Use them.
Great. Thank you very much, Michaela. That's interesting. And that's true. All right. Even more than Spanish. Spanish is very, you need complete and so on. But English, because of the world speaking it, because of all the words that it adapted to its language, is the one that has a lot and a lot and a lot of words. Okay, you can find infinite synonyms for almost every word. And this thesaurus, right, you must know perhaps, is a type of dictionary that helps you find synonyms. Okay, so you have to look for synonyms. And that's something that can give you a lot of points or can reduce a lot of points in any international test that you take. Okay, why? Because people usually say these words, important, okay, and they repeat the word important many, many times, okay, 2 or 3 times. Also the word tell, because they work with citations and so on, okay? So the verb tell, the adjective important, also when you are using the word or the adjective good, in many situations, good and bad, those 2 adjectives are used a lot, okay? So to avoid that we're also going to check in this essay. And Michaela, you have in the presentation on Google Classroom, you have this document that I'm going to show you. And I did some vocabulary that contains first negative words that we're going to take a look in a second, all right? But we're going to read those more in detail on Monday, Okay, but here, this is a list of very important words that are used a lot in essays, plus some synonyms that you can use in order not to repeat the same. Okay, so we're going to read only one per slide so that we have the time to continue, but you have access to these documents. So if you feel that you are using one word more than once, you have to take a look at this and replace that for a synonym. Okay, you also have the internet, but this is a chart that can help you out. So for example, here, a word that can be repeated a lot is begin, because you can start explanation of something in many ways. So let's repeat, please, the synonyms for begin again.
Okay, begin, initiate, commence, inaugurate.
Correct, right? In this, remember, when you have AU, it's going to be more like O, so it's going to be inaugurate.
Inaugurate.
Like O, inaugurate. Good, so good, right? So you have begin, start, initiate, commence, inaugurate, right? So those are some synonyms. Here, decide is a word that you use a lot in essays, and describe as well. So let's read please decide and describe in this case.
Okay, decide, determine, settle, describe, portray, characterize.
Characterize, right? So this is going to be the determine, and this is going to be characterize. And remember, it's S if it's British English. As you're using American English in this case, this has to be with a Z. Okay, so this is British, you only change that to a Z, and it's like American English. So that's important, all right? Decide, determine or determine, also good, but it's British. Settle, portray, and characterize. Right, good. Those are other words. Here, difference, that's something we use a lot, and explain. Okay, let's read those two, please. Difference and explain.
Difference, disagreement, inequity, dissimilarity. Explain, elaborate, interpret.
Correct. So there you go. Again, words, you have many more, but those are the ones that you usually use over there. Get is definitely a word that is repeated a lot, so we need to avoid using get. And even in general, if you can avoid using get in your entire essay, that's going to be a plus. Okay, why? Because usually get is a word that replaces a lot of words. Okay, it's very common, but it's very informal. Okay, get is a very informal word. And of course, many of these words are used a lot, but have as well can be a repeated word. So get and have, please, Mika.
Get, acquire, obtain, secure, procure, gather, have, possess, own, acquire.
Great, thank you very much. Good. This is one of the exceptions. Instead of a, is only going to be a, like gather. Like reunite something, right? Good. And remember, you have many more for get. You know that get can be by also. You know that get can be also the verb to be in some situations. You know that get can be also becoming something, right? So get has a lot of meanings, but then one more time, it's better if you avoid using get and you use one of the real words. And that again, in many tests, and I would say all of the tests, it is taken into account. Okay, avoiding the use of get and words like this one, it's always a plus. Have also, but it doesn't have a lot of possibilities, right? But if you use a have, remember you can use instead of eat or drink. If you use eat or drink in that situation, it's always better. Again, in formal situations, it's always better. Now, this is important because the word important is repeated a lot, and also interesting as well, but we're going to read important and make, that is a verb. Okay, so let's read important and make, please.
Important, necessary, vital, critical, indispensable, valuable, essential, famous, notable. Make, create, originate, invent, construct, manufacture, produce, compose.
Great. So one more time, important and make are verbs, are words. This is adjective and this is a verb, but they are repeated a lot. We're only going to repeat please some words over here. This word, valuable, let's repeat that one, please.
Valuable.
And this like notable.
Notable.
Notable, good. And here, I think it was good. Yes, this one. How do you read this word one more time?
Manufacture.
Yes, manufacture. To manufacture something. Produce, compose, construct, invent, right? So there you go. I think we only have one more. Yes. And here, we're only going to use tell, please. Let's read the words for tell.
Tell, disclose, reveal, expose, narrate, inform, divulge.
Sorry, good. So one more time. Tell, as I told you, is a word that is very common in essays because we always tell, right? We always disclose, we always reveal, expose, say things, and we need to show citations. So it's very common. So again, if you can avoid the word tell, it's better. Okay, always try to use some synonyms, and it's going to be the best option, not only in this essay for me, but in all the tests that are going to be international for you, or any other a document that you have to write in English. Okay, so that's it. You know that you have, as you were able to see, many other words. Take a look at those words, because that part can be very useful as you're writing your essay, or at least as you are revising your essay. Because one more time, if you realize this last unit is not to teach you something new, it's just to tell you some details to improve your writing and to make your essay even more fun. All right? Now, as Monday, we're going to use it for questions, for going deeper into those details. I want to finish at least reading the steps that we have. And on Monday, we are going to work on some last details. Okay, so that was repetition. Again, this is one of the most important ones. This is also very important. It's easy to avoid, but it's hard to replace. All right, and those words are going to be covered on Monday. But let's read this explanation, please, Michaela. Step 7.
Okay, always try to put statement in positive form. Do not put them in negative form. This will make your language seem stronger as opposite to non-committal and hesitating. If you use the word not, it must only be in case of clear denial or antithesis. Take a look at these examples. I do not usually arrive late. I am usually on time. He did not think that going to the baseball game would be a good use of time. He thought that attending a baseball game would be a waste of time. In each case, the second sentence is stronger. In the second pair of sentences, the idea did not think is ambiguous. So it implies that he was not thinking about the baseball game at all. Therefore, do not put in a negative form anything that can easily be written in the positive. Negative form ambiguity is one of the reasons that singular word exists to express negative phrases. Instead of not honest, we have dishonest. And instead of did not have much confidence in, we have distrusted. Dig your brain for similar words before committing to a non-committal sentence.
Great. Thank you, Michaela. And again, this is really interesting. Many people will write essays without taking this into account. But one more time, if you want an advanced writing, a very academic essay, don't, as I'm doing now, right? Don't use negative sentences. Don't use do not, don't use not. Okay, you have to eliminate not from your essay. Sometimes it's unavoidable. When the thesis is there and your thesis is negative, but it's clear, you can use negative. All right, but the rest of the ideas should always be affirmative. But remember, not saying or saying this, it doesn't mean that you don't have to write negative ideas. No, they are affirmative sentences with a negative idea. For example, dishonest, right? Instead of saying he is not honest, it's better in English if you say he is dishonest, right? Very simple. So you have to avoid that. And again, one more time, in the same presentation that I showed you, that is still here, the first part shows you all those possibilities. Okay, here I show you examples with the deactivate, decode, decompose, deconstruct. They have a negative meaning. With this, right, disaffect, disagree, disagreeable, dishonor, disinfected, and many other things, displeased, and so on and so forth. The very common ones with in and ear, right, like illegal, irresponsible, incomplete, infinite, inflexible, right? So one more time, instead of saying this is not, or we don't have a flexible schedule, you can say our schedule is inflexible, right? So one more time, it's just to avoid using that, and you have many more words with miss. Miss has a very extra thing that is very interesting. That is not only not, it also means incorrect, right? Misconduct, misdiagnose, and so on and so forth. None, that is not very recommendable because it has very few words and not common words to use it. But then you have un, that is one of the most common negative prefixes in English, as you can see over here. And if you don't know what prefix you have to use, un is always the best option. Okay, unaffected, unambiguous, unassisted, unattainable, and so on and so forth, right? And here, unhelpful, one more time, instead of that, process was not helpful, right? That process was unhelpful. And that in that way, you are avoiding negative words like not, but you're using negative specific words like unhelpful. So that's it. Once again, you have access to that one on Google Classroom, Michaela. It is part of the last unit, Unit 4. And now to finish, we are going to just read number 8, because in number 9, it says do not exaggerate. This is just a recommendation for you to keep your information clear and real. Okay, not just for in order to, let's say, catch the reader's attention. You want to say things that are extraordinary, right? But no, here they tell you, you don't have to be exaggerated. You have to show things that are real, that are facts, and that are not overusing the idea so that you just want the reader to be interested in your reading. Okay, that's it. But this is not evaluated. This is, of course, just a recommendation. But number 8, it's a very simple one. Let's read this one to finish today, please.
Okay, no punctuation marks outside of quotation. Technically, all punctuation marks have to be written inside the quotes, commas, semicolon, colon, periods, exclamation, and question marks. Example, what a wonderful day. She said that, he said, I am okay, but we knew he was lying.
Good. So again, you know this one, right? But sometimes you can use commas, and look, even the commas have to be inside. He said, right, colon, quotation mark, I'm okay, comma, quotation mark, and these are your words, right? But we knew he was lying. But again, this is an addition. You don't want to use comma because you want to add something to this citation, to this quote, right? In that case, the quotation marks, and sorry, the punctuation marks, they are always going to be inside the quotation marks. Okay, and again, you know that one. This is just to reinforce that knowledge, and this is also going to be evaluated here. It means that if you, this is something you need to take into account, because you need 2 citations in your essay, Michaela. 1 citation for every paragraph, right, body paragraph. And if you don't use the punctuation mark inside the quotation marks, you're going to have a double mistake, right? You're going to lose points in the section of punctuation, and you're going to lose points in the section of tips for writing. Okay, so it's going to be a double way that is going to affect your score. It's very simple to follow. Just don't forget that one. With that, we finish. Look, with this, you know everything that you have to do, everything you have to avoid in your essay. It means that you have this time to finish working on that. On Monday, one more time, I'm just going to give you a general review, but mainly it's going to be for you to ask me specific questions, all right? If you have doubts about the steps, if you're not sure about something, but very specific, okay? Not something related to your essay. It can be something related to what you're writing, but in a general way, okay? Not specifically what you have over there. And also I'm going to make you read some of the negative words, some of the common negative words that we have. And we're going to practice with the short correction of one essay that I got, in which we have to add the punctuation marks to see how you understand. I can give you my feedback over there. And with that, I believe that you are ready. Okay, and that again, with that, we finish the course on Monday. I check everything on Tuesday, and we are going to start the next course that is going to be speaking and writing, sorry, speaking and listening on Wednesday. All right, but I don't know if you have any questions then or comments before finishing today, Michaela.
No, teacher, thank you so much.
Good, that's great. So once again, work on that, please. Don't forget. I'm sharing the usual daily survey. You should see it now. Let's complete that one, and that's it for now. All right, have a great night. Don't forget, please, also that until Monday, it's the due date, not only for the final essay, or well, the only essay that we have, but also for the 9 new words and completing the examples that we have until Monday. Okay, everything is going to be until that day. That's it. Have a good night and a good weekend, Michaela. See you on Monday.
Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.